Watch and burn.
Hey everyone. So tonight, again, it's 7:30. Tonight, I am going to be discussing what I've always considered to be sort of among the first handful of Netflix original movies that were released back in 2018 when Netflix first officially kind of got the ball rolling concerning their original projects. And that movie is Hold the Dark. This has Jeffrey Wright, Alexander Skarsgård's in this. And what it's about is Jeffrey Wright's character he's like a animal expert who seems to specialize in wolves, and he's way out in the middle of nowhere where the movie takes place, investigating the apparent death of a child by way of a pack of wolves. And it very quickly becomes a little more than that. It's not just simply that this kid was eaten by wolves. It turns out that his mom killed him. And this movie is just, honestly, to sum this movie up quickly, I love this movie. I've loved this movie from the first time that I saw it. But this movie is bleak. It's incredibly sad, and it's kind of rapey. There's a full-on rape that happens within the first half an hour of the movie. It takes place overseas in Iraq during I imagine the Iraq conflict sometime after 2003, after the US invaded. And so yes, if you have a problem with sex assaults, not an incredibly graphic sex assault, but a sex assault all the same, and it's graphic enough, if you take issue with that sort of thing, you may not love this part of that movie, or this part of this movie, because it's definitely there. And that attitude seems to like permeate every aspect and every facet of this film. This entire movie, it's beautifully shot. It's a lot of fun to watch unfold and watch it happen, and how they chose to light it. And it's like, this is like an acting decathlon. You know, everybody in it has completely brought their A game, but this movie is just so heavy and so downbeat. And it's based off a novel, I believe, of the same name. And the story is essentially the mother who killed her son did so because of the guilt she was experiencing from having an incestuous relationship with her brother, who comes back and starts hunting everybody down who's going to harm her and see her put in prison. And again, whereas there was no rape on her, there was no, her brother didn't rape her, still, here it is, hitting another bell that people don't really love to watch, and that's the incest bell. And I get it, again, and that just, again, adds to the weight. This movie it's so crushingly depressing at times. And Jeffrey Wright, his character, he wears his sadness on his sleeve, and it's like tattooed on his face permanently. Like, this man does not enjoy his life. And I never really understood Jeffrey Wright's character's life. Like, he's always at work, and he has I think he has a daughter. I think that's what he says. And a wife somewhere, because at one point he calls his wife at work, and he says that he could really use a phone call from her because he's feeling incredibly down. And of course she doesn't get back to him. So it got me thinking, as to whether or not his wife was even alive, if they were still married, if any of that was actually happening, or if this was all in his head and he was just another tragic figure amongst a sea of tragic figures in this movie. But the movie ends with him in a hospital bed, and a woman shows up who is presumably his wife, and it ends with him smiling somewhat. So I guess in a way you could argue that this movie ended on a high note or a happy note, but this movie is just so bleak, and it's so cold, and the atmosphere that it creates is so sterile and so uncaring that, I don't know, it's a tough watch. But at this point, as of mid-July 2022, I've watched this movie several times, and I don't really like Netflix original movies. I always find them to kind of be cheap and thrown together. Like, they don't feel like much. Outside of a few standouts like The Irishman, right off the top of my head, they just feel like they almost have like a made-for-TV quality. despite how many big stars Netflix manages to rope into their films, they always kind of have that made-for-TV vibe. And this movie didn't. This movie is just... This is one rough ride. There's like a funeral dirge at this point, you know. I can't think of a better way to put it. It's like you're at a funeral that doesn't end. And like I said, if you take issue with things like incest and you take issue with things like rape, this may not be the movie for you. I don't love either of those things. I just fast forward through the rape. And wow, it's windy out here. My tripod keeps trying to blow over. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there. This movie's really depressing. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for almost 6 minutes while I discuss Hold the Dark. If you liked this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody, and my tripod really wants to blow over, so I'm going to cut it here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again. I really appreciate it. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.